Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to maybe do a little personal sharing about why I decided to become an Ifs therapist. And boy, was it a long journey. It was a long journey. It was a bumpy journey, but I really wanted to share this because I feel like it's really important. Ifs therapy is very unique. It's very non-traditional. There's a lot of things that kind of buck at the system of mental health with Ifs, and maybe the rebel part of me really liked that. And at the same time, there was a skeptical part of me that was like, I don't know about this. But before we get into it, of course, subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below if you have any questions. I welcome curiosity. You know I do. I feel like questions is how we learn. We have questions, and some people may feel a little nervous to ask questions, but I welcome them. Come on with the comments. Let's do it. All right, so let's get into it. Why did I choose to become an Ifs therapist? When I look at my training professionally, I can see how it was making sense for me. There was definitely this analytical part of me that was very curious of what makes people do what they do. And so I definitely had this behavioral component when it came to looking at therapy and looking at people's behavior as a motivator. And I think that comes from my work with children. And so, of course, most therapists at the time that I was going to school definitely were introduced to cognitive behavioral therapy. And there were parts of me that agreed with it, but there are also parts of me that were like, this really feels invalidating. I'm telling the person that what they're feeling, think about it this way. Think about it this way. Don't think about it that way. Think about it this way. And it just felt very mechanical. It felt very heavy. It felt very laborious, very just a lot of work to help redirect those thoughts over and over and over and over and over again, right? And then I was introduced to DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, and I really love DBT. It made a lot of sense to me, especially the part that two opposite things can be true. Oh, I was like, yes, I was excited about that. And that could help with building your relationship with yourself and with others. I was like, oh, sign me up. I am here for DBT. Now, there were parts of me that were saying, this seems really rigid. These steps and these skills, it seems very rigid, and people just aren't that way. I noticed that people's rhythm and the spirit in which they came to therapy really didn't mesh well with those steps, especially if they had rebel parts. And oftentimes I had clients who had rebel parts because I was talking to teenagers, and there was always a part of them that didn't want to do the skill. They would learn the skill. You're like, yeah, I know the skill's going to help me, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to do this skill. And there was always a part of them that was resistant to learning the skills. And so I was like, okay. And then I was introduced to motivational interviewing, which I fell in love with. It was rolling with the resistance, rolling with the part that didn't want to do the skill, didn't want to learn the skill, didn't want to participate in therapy, whatever was coming up, we will roll with it, and we will negotiate. And we will help to and really get to the work that the client wants to achieve in therapy. And so I was like, ooh, this is my sweet spot. I got motivational interviewing and I got DBT, and I can kind of put these two together. And then I got my analytical part to figure out, why people are doing the things that they are doing. Great. And then I was introduced to internal family systems. And I have to tell you, the model made 100% sense to me. As I was in the training, I saw client after client coming up in my mind. Like, oh, yep, they have manager parts. They have a lot of firefighter parts. Yeah, I see how the trauma is being numbed by that firefighter part, and this manager wants to maintain control. And I see that I'm always interacting with the managers in session. I saw all of that, and I was like, ooh, this makes so much sense. But then when it came to the internal process of internal family systems, there was a part of me that said, oh no, this is pretty hokey. That's the word that literally came up. I was like, this is really hokey. This is connecting with parts on the inside. I don't know. And so I left curious, but I also left very skeptical and hesitant from that training. And I know there was a part of me that was like, but remember, it made so much sense. Remember, Alicia, it made sense. And so I started using part language in sessions. Okay, I hear you. A part of you feels this way and a part of you feels that way. And it helped clients to break through their internal conflict and hear the separate voices and hear that it was two different voices talking to them and get to a space where they will be able to understand. They had some clarity just from using the part language. And I was like, So then there was a part of me that's like, okay, so maybe we can just do part language. That's what we can do. And so I started going to consultation groups. And what consultation is just therapists coming together and asking questions that come up for them in session. They don't share personal information or anything like that. They just share, hey, I got this client and this is going on with this client. What do you think? Or how can you guide me through this? And I would go every so often because I wasn't really doing true IFS work. And so there was still a part of me though that was saying, Alicia, remember, this makes sense. And I was watching a documentary about individuals who had committed some pretty heinous crimes. And it was a woman who was interviewing these people. And she was interviewing them. She was a psychologist, and she was interviewing them to see if the reason why they were committing these crimes is because they weren't well. So seeing if they were not guilty by reason of insanity. And my goodness, a lot of them had what we would call multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder, where their parts became very polarized and showed up right in different ways. And it clicked, like IFS clicked for me in that moment. That part of me that said, oh, this is hokey, was like, all right, Alicia, this makes sense. We gotta do it. We gotta do it. And so I started to go to my consultation meetings more often. And then I volunteered to be a client in one of my consultation meetings. And it was such a unique experience to hear parts so clearly and also feel where they're present in your body. And I was hooked at that point. I was like, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this work. And what really made me gravitate to IFS completely is I began to see these polarized parts present in our world. There's this polarized part that believes this, and this other polarized part that believes that, and neither part can get along or see how either part can be right. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is IFS right in front of us. And I wanted to be a part of the solution, knowing, of course, that my realm of influence is limited. And at the same time, wanting to really put it out there like, hey, we can disagree and still be civil. There's space for both people to exist and to hear what each other has to say. Because at the end of the day, we're all humans who want to be seen, who want to be heard, who want to be witnessed, because our parts are crying out often. We see it. When we see people who are arguing on social media, those are parts screaming out to be seen, to be heard. And they're valid. They're valid. They may not be factual, but they are valid. And so IFS just really, really resonated with me. There's also a part of me that just never really truly liked the fact that in order for a client to come to see me as a therapist, that I had to diagnose them. One, I never liked the verbiage of diagnoses, like the fact that disorder was on the end of it. It just seemed very, very stigmatizing. It's like, okay, come to therapy. Everyone, come to therapy, and we're going to slap this label on you, but we're not labeling you. And it's a disorder. Nothing's wrong with you, but this, and it just seemed to really contradict itself. And that part never sat right with me. Even when I first started out in school, I was just like, that part never sat right with me. And so when clients were having a hard time, like accepting, there were parts of the clients that were having a hard time accepting a diagnosis, I really wanted to sit with them, right? There was part of me that's always passionate about, like, okay, so you were told that you have depression, or you were told that you have ADHD. Did they tell you like what that means? Did they tell you what that looks like for you and why and oftentimes clients I always heard no. I can't even remember a time that someone said that a diagnosis was actually explained to them. So that was just something I was always passionate about. And so the fact that IFS doesn't necessarily diagnose, it doesn't diagnose, but it takes in parts. And yes, there are some therapists who do diagnose and also do IFS. I think that unfortunately it's necessary because of the medical model, and billing insurances and the like. And at the same time, it just felt so non-pathologizing. That's the other reason. The next reason why IFS felt really great for me is I saw, and even I felt this even in myself, I want to be transparent, even in myself, pathologizing or stigmatizing certain behaviors of parts that were crying out for help. So there were parts of me that hated the term attention seeking. I hated it. I'm like, who doesn't want to be attended to? That doesn't make any sense. Why are we telling somebody that something's wrong with them because they are seeking attention? So IFS doesn't look at the destruction of the behavior. And I feel like certain parts really feel that in therapy. They feel like their therapist is like really concerned about them harming themselves. Their therapist is really, really concerned about them drinking or using substances, and that can create barriers in the therapeutic relationship. But if we say, hey, let's talk to your drinking partner, I understand it's trying to numb the pain of the trauma that you're feeling, or the pain of your disappointment in your life, let's talk to this drinking part, then it's like, oh, it's not bad, right? It's not getting the results that we want, but it's not bad. And it takes the hot seat off of these parts that may be deemed negative. And we hear it. We see it all the time on social media. I can't type up therapist content on any platform that isn't bashing certain behaviors, whether it be narcissistic parts or manipulative parts or toxic parts. And the part that just didn't sit well with me is that we were classifying all of the person as a part or a couple parts of them. It just didn't sit well with me. And so to hear IFS say, hey, we're going to accept all parts are welcome. All parts can come into the session. All parts need to be heard, need to be seen, need to be witnessed. I was like, I can get on board with this. I don't have to view my clients as resistant, because that was language that I was taught. And that was language even that I used when clients would come, of course, to therapy and say, hey, I need help. But then also say like, no, I don't want you to help me like this. Not like that. And you would get pushback. And I'm like, why are you getting pushback? You're asking me for help. And And it also helped me, I guess this is a great segue, it also helped me to be in tune with my parts. In tune with my parts and how they show up in session, and knowing when to pull them back and remain centered and focused on the client and what they need. It really helped me to be more in tune with myself, to make sure that I'm focused on the client. I really, really, truly appreciate this model. I really do. I've never thought I would be a person who attached to one model and it was like, this is me. I'm an IFS therapist. And at the same time, I'm an IFS therapist. It has completely changed how I see myself, my clients, the people in my world, how I see society, all of it. And I appreciate it because it has helped me to see the world from a more centered place, have more compassion towards myself and others. I don't see me going back. I truly don't. And lastly, I don't know how I could forget this. IFS is really one of the few models. It's evidence-based, right? So that's definitely a plus. But I just noticed that a lot of models promise reduction or coping skills to manage the behavior, to manage the anxiety, to manage the depression. What can you do to cope? And IFS heals. It provides healing. It provides relief from those burdens, from those parts that are carrying that burden to protect that little one, that exhale part. It gives relief. It provides relief, and it's such a beautiful thing. And it was also amazing what it can do also for the physical body, that one of the studies, or actually the study with IFS and rheumatoid arthritis patients help to get its evidence-based practice, is that individuals who experiencing pain and rheumatoid arthritis, what they came to find out was that rheumatoid arthritis was a part. It was a polarized part. There was a caretaker part and a rheumatoid arthritis part. And the only way they could stop this person from their caretaker part from being active and taking care of everyone in their life is by stopping their body. No, you won't do it. And so healing those wounds that person was carrying from the trauma they experienced help to attend to their body. And so it was just so amazing to see that and witness that. And so I was like, oh, I want to give this to my clients. I want to give them relief. I don't want to give them something that they have to continuously practice and manage, right? Have these manager parts now that have to manage their mental illness. I want to help them get relief. And so I say, yes, sign me up. Sign me up for IFS. I'll be an IFS therapist who will do hokey things if it's going to help my clients and even help me be a better therapist and help them live the lives that they want to live, free from the burdens that they didn't ask to carry. So in short, why did I become an IFS therapist? Because it made sense. It made perfect sense. It's what I saw in the world. It was just playing out in front of me, clear view from how we interact with others, especially on social media, but how we interact with others and what causes the conflict and the disconnect in our connection with each other. And also because it's a model that looks at human beings as human beings, not labels, not behavior that needs to be changed, not a being that needs to be controlled. And it also creates too a space that the therapist and the client are on a more equal playing field, right? Where there's not this hierarchy in the relationship where the therapist has to be this really picture of mental health perfection, right? Not saying that an IFS therapist doesn't need to do their work. We need to do our work in order to maintain self-energy for our clients. And at the same time, when there's something that pops up in a session, they may activate something within me, I'm able to say, hold on for a moment, I'm just pausing. Let me get myself, okay. To help center myself, that helps the client to see, oh, she's got parts too. And it also communicates to their parts that I'm safe with them. I'm safe with this therapist or this IFS practitioner because they are working to make sure that there's a safe environment for me to work through my stuff. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm really grateful for it. So that is why I became an IFS therapist. So let me know if you're a therapist, IFS therapist who follows me, or even a client who's been in IFS. Let me know for you, what was it about IFS that clicked for you? What was it about IFS that said, this is right, this works for me? And what have you learned about yourself through IFS? I really look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you guys so much for the new subscribers. Welcome to my channel. And of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel. And as always, be cool, be calm, be centered.